Welcome to the OK Let's Learn podcast, where we dive into books and stories with our OK Book Club, and we dive into people and tons of different topics. So today, OK, let's learn and listen to the Greek myth, Demeter and Persephone. Now, this is our third retelling of a Greek myth, and we will have many more, as well as tons of different topics. And what I wanted to start off today talking about is exactly what I just said. I just said a retelling. What's very interesting as you dive into Greek myths and start reading them is how different from book to book, from story to story, they're different. And why is this so? Again, going back to the very beginning, these stories are 2,700 years old. And the first stories that were told were not written down. They were verbally passed down through the centuries. So when you're looking at ultimately your audience, number one, you have to consider whether it's family friendly. And number two, whether it's obviously just geared towards adults. And number three, is it close to the original as possible? So when you're looking at reading some of these stories in book form, whether you're picking it up off the shelf in Barnes & Noble or just going online or listening to podcasts, you want to look at whether it's considered or written as original/classic, or if it's written down as being translated. Then you've got close to the ancient sources as possible. When you're seeing retelling or retold, the story has been simplified, modernized, obviously rewritten in such a way that it's being delivered differently to a different audience. Adapted is another word you'll often see when you're buying a book. And that basically means it's changed into a different genre of a book, whether it's a graphic novel, if it's a full-length novel itself, pictures, no pictures, whether it's a children's book, etc. The other phrases you'll see are reimagined, rewritten, inspired by. And because ultimately, like I said, as you can imagine, too much time has gone by, and because these were originally written as poems, just the form in terms of how they're written needed to be changed and updated. People write differently, just even from a couple hundred years ago, not even considering the fact that it was thousands of years ago when it was originally delivered. And the final point that I'll make is that ultimately early on in Greek society, these stories were put on as plays, as dramas. So again, vis-a-vis the different mediums, the different ways they were delivered, ultimately you're going to see wide variations of the stories. And in a future episode, I will let you know the most popular books that you can buy off the shelf where you can read lots of these Greek myths. But I have tried in all of these episodes to deliver to you the most widely known and popular versions of all of these Greek myths. So, Demeter and Persephone, the origin story of nature, and ultimately how our climate would change throughout the year. Long ago, when the gods of Mount Olympus ruled the world, there lived a powerful goddess named Demeter. Demeter was the sister of Zeus. She was the goddess of farming and the harvest, all of food. Wherever she walked, plants grew, fields filled with wheat, trees, bents with fruits, and flowers bloomed in all beautiful colors. It was because of Demeter that people had food to eat and the earth was alive. Demeter had one child. Her name was Persephone. She was kind and full of joy and full of curiosity. She loved the earth just as much as her mother did. She laughed in the meadows, she danced in the flowers, and yes, she helped the plants grow tall and strong. Demeter loved Persephone more than anything in the world, and the two were almost always together. As a matter of fact, when they were together, and only when they were together, it just felt like summer all year long. But one day, Persephone went walking through a beautiful field with her friends, the nymphs. The sun was warm and the ground was covered with flowers. Persephone wandered and wandered, and she noticed up ahead something unusual. A cluster of flowers, more beautiful than she had ever seen. Their colors were bright and their scent was sweet. Persephone stepped closer. Now, Persephone, she was not just known by the gods and goddesses on Mount Olympus. You see, Zeus's brother, Hades, the god of the underworld, had also taken notice of Persephone. Hades, you see, lived underground, and he oversaw all the souls of the dead. With his three-headed dog, Cerberus, they saw to it that none of the dead escaped back to the land of the living. Hades had fallen in love with Persephone, and he made sure that she would be his queen. On that day, as Persephone drifted further and further away from her mother, Hades grabbed his 4 horses, jumped on his golden chariot, and climbed up to earth. Right there where Persephone reached down to pick one of the flowers, suddenly the ground beneath her split open. Before Persephone could cry out, Hades reached for her and pulled her down into the underworld. The ground closed behind them, and Persephone was gone. Back on Earth, Demeter turned around, and nowhere was her daughter to be found. She waited, and she looked, and she went everywhere to find her. But Persephone never came back. At first, Demeter wasn't worried, but as time passed, her worry turned to fear. Her worry turned to sorrow. Her worry changed everything on earth. She searched everywhere. She walked across fields, climbed mountains, traveled to the edge of the world. She called Persephone's name again and again. There was no answer. As Demeter searched, something strange happened. Because her heart was filled with melancholy, sadness, anger, Demeter stopped caring. And what did she care for? She cared for the earth. She cared for everything growing. Crops stopped. Leaves fell from the trees. Flowers withered. The land became cold and empty. No life whatsoever. People began to suffer. Without food, they grew weak and hungry. The earth, once full of life, was now dry and barren. At last, Demeter learned the truth. Hades had taken Persephone. She had gone to the sun god, Helios, who during the day sees all, and she asked Helios for help. And it was Helios that had told her that yes, Hades had taken her down to the underworld to be his queen. This was not only a problem for people, this was a problem for the other gods, because they received no offerings from the people, because they didn't have any food or meat to spare. So, after some time, Zeus, seeing that the people would starve if something was not done, he actually went down to the underworld to persuade, to see, to plead with his brother Hades to let Persephone come back to Earth. He said, Hades, listen, if you don't return Persephone to her mother, Demeter, nothing is going to grow on Earth again, and people are going to starve. Oh, Zeus, I'll gladly return her, but you know the rules. If she has eaten anything, she can't return. She has to stay in the underworld forever. Those are the rules. So Zeus looked over at Persephone and asked the all-important question, did you eat anything, my dear? At that moment, Persephone fell to the ground and started wailing and crying. Yes, I ate 6 pomegranate seeds. A rule was a rule. But Zeus knew that if Persephone stayed in the underworld, obviously nothing was going to grow on Earth again, and this could not continue. This could not happen. So he made a deal with Hades. Hades, for each seed that she has eaten, Persephone will stay 1 month with you in the underworld as your queen. For the rest of the year, 6 months, she will live on Earth with her mother. So, there it was. Persephone returned to her mother. Both were full of joy. The earth became warm and alive again. The crops grew, the flowers bloomed, and the people, most importantly, were able to eat. Food grew. And yes, this became spring and summer. But when Persephone had to return back to the underworld, Demeter was full of sorrow once again. The earth grew cold, the plants stopped growing, the leaves fell from the tree, and yes, nothing grew. This ended up being fall and winter. This is the origin story of how the seasons were born. And even now, as ancient Greeks believe, when the winter comes, it's because Demeter misses her daughter. And when spring returns, it's because Persephone has come home. Friends, that's been a wrap on another retelling of a Greek myth, Demeter and Persephone. Now, as a fun little way to wrap up the podcast, as I've mentioned many times in previous episodes, if you leave a nice review for me, I'll read it here on a future episode. And I did want to share with you a review from Karen Moeller. Mr. O'Keefe brings excitement to his podcast and really engages the audience. I am often driving my 7-year-old to sport practices throughout the week and on weekends, and we always listen to OK podcasts during the drive. The content is great and covers many topics of interest. My 5-year-old also enjoys listening. Keep up the great content. Well, Karen, thank you for that wonderful review. Much appreciated. And yes, absolutely, positively, my goal is to be family friendly, and I cannot tell you how much happiness it brings me to hear that the kids are listening. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So, again, if you have questions, comments, concerns, hopefully you don't have any concerns, but any feedback at all is always welcomed. Reach out to me at kevmok21@gmail.com. And if you leave a 5-star review, I'll maybe read it on another future episode. So, have fun and keep learning.